Ono Trendiali.
Uh-oh.
Eh? What's wrong?
Hello?
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 I can hear you.
Yeah, I'm
I
good.
can hear you.
I'm good.
Okay. It seems we are now online. We are now live.
All right, I'm all set.
Okay. So, hello, everybody. Hello, Grant. Here we are welcoming you, our dear senior translator interpreter, Emmanuel AYUK. You are a senior translator and interpreter, as you were saying, and you are also the VP, the Vice President of the International Association of Conference Interpreters. So we are very glad and honored to have you here on the Speed Expertise YouTube channel. Just as a reminder, Speed Expertise is a translation, is an online-based translation company with head office in Yaoundé, Cameroon. And we offer language-related services such as translation, transcription, transcreation, proofreading, interpreting, dubbing. And this channel, this Speed Expertise channel, has been designed to help young translators, budding, starting, and even experienced translators get familiar with the trends in the localization industry, but also to let them get more knowledge from the experience of more advanced colleagues in the journey in our profession. So thank you very much, Grant, as I will call you during this conversation. Thank you very much for being with us. Please, how do you feel this afternoon?
Thank you, Passion. Thank you for this opportunity. I'm okay, I would say. I'm really not too well. Bout of malaria, but I mean, that would not take me away from this interesting conversation. And thank you really for this opportunity.
Well,
How are you yourself?
I'm fine. I'm fine. I'm fine.
And
I'm
please
fine,
just call me
actually.
Emmanuel. Don't call me Grant. I mean, we're just talking. We are colleagues, yeah? It's fine with
Okay.
me. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much. You are so outgoing. So thank you very much for that opportunity too. Thank you. Well, so
Right.
today our topic is how to adapt, how to, because there is a new normal now in the localization industry. Everything has changed. Actually, we might link it to the COVID-19 pandemic, but I think the changes have started a bit earlier than the COVID pandemic. But since COVID pandemic is already there, we are going to take that into account. So the big changes we are observing in the localization industry relating to the new tools that are now taking over the old tools, such as online tools, the cloud, the artificial intelligence. In fact, everything that has to do with the localization industry and that is impacted by the COVID-19 and the outcoming of intelligence, artificial intelligence. Do you think things are changing actually, or is just something we are imagining?
No, we are not imagining, and this is not fantasy. This is reality. I would say that COVID-19 has only put something that has been happening for quite some time into the spotlight and sort of fast-tracked events. And speaking from the interpreting perspective, for instance, I would say this is yet another, how do you call it? This is just another defining moment, another Nuremberg moment. You know, in interpreting, for instance, the simultaneous interpreting started in Nuremberg with the trials. So this is now a new generation, I would say, of interpreting that has brought into focus remote interpreting, which has been there. And speaking more generally about the localization industry, including translation and all the other things, these industries have been operating for a long time remotely with fewer in-person interactions, and they have been using all those tools. So I am sure that for you who is in the translation business, there are many of your clients you have never met in person. You've never seen them in the flesh. So we have all these tools, all the translation memories, all those tools that are now, they are just showing how important they are, but they've been there before. So COVID has only highlighted the use of these tools. And for some of the institutions or organizations, some have been using them. So some have really been prepared, others have not been prepared. But be that as it may, this pandemic has thrust upon us a new brave world. We are all charting a new course, and that new course is actually known as uncharted waters because we are still scrambling to put things together in this new environment. But I think that is going to define the future if it hasn't done so yet.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your explanation or your description of the current situation. But from what you've just said, I can also guess that you personally, in your professional activity, has been impacted by what is happening so far. So clearly, what has changed in the way you are operating now as opposed to what you have been doing before this period, this pandemic period?
What has changed significantly is that I've been working from home. I've been interpreting from home. Previously, we were interpreting in booths, in physical locations. Although we're already doing what I'll call a significant amount of remote interpreting, but in that case, you were doing it from a booth, and then the other participants of the events were located away from that physical space. But right now, I do interpret from this very same computer I'm speaking to you. So that has been a significant change.
Well,
For
that is,
translation, not much has changed because for the clients I have, I've been working with them remotely. So it's the same old business, you get a task, you do it, and you send it back.
yes. But please, let's come back to interpreting. Uh, does the new situation, the new normal affect your income to be concrete?
Oh, yes, it does. It does because I'm actually lucky to be able to work. I know colleagues who have not had a single day of work since March.
Why?
And
What is the reason, please? Why is the reason? Because they are not up to date, they are not following up the changes, or because they are not just, let's say, at the right place at the right time?
I would say it's a combination of both and much more. Because let me take the example of Cameroon. I think for the little I know about the market, most of the time the meetings just happen there. You know, you bring in interpreters in a physical location and then, they do their work and leave. Now things have changed. For those local organizations, I'm not sure how many of them have moved their meetings or their events online. You see? So if they haven't moved those events online, it means that those interpreters have lost a market share. That is one. So meaning that in some cases, the clients would be organizations generally have taken their events online or on remote platforms. Others have simply stopped doing events and they are waiting for things to change. Now, you have interpreters who are IT savvy and who were prepared for this eventuality because this is something that has been happening in other places of the world. A good number of interpreters have come up to speed. They've learned in little time, little or no time, to do this business online. And speaking specifically of my association, aiic, for instance, we've made a lot of effort to both educate the organizations, that's the clients, and our members, coming up with guidance that would apply in this exceptional circumstances, which we call in extremis. So you have to work from home. In other cases, you have to work from a hub, but it has impacted the work and lives of professionals, interpreters especially, significantly. I think I have recorded a significant loss of income, but I'm thankful that my main clients have taken the work online. It's not as it was before, but I think I have enough to get me by. And for that, I'm thankful. It's not the case for many people.
Great. We are so happy for you. And we wish the best to all those who are still waiting for the next opportunity. And please, you also mentioned your translation clients. Let me come back to it again. Well, please, did you notice a change? Maybe did you change your strategy to work with them or to get new clients? Have you changed your approach, or is it the same approach? And since you're a big name actually in the industry, maybe people are just running to you as opposed to what is happening with other fellow colleagues.
Do you realize that Apple, which just hit $2 trillion in value, still advertises its products?
Yeah.
If you realize that, it actually, and if you were to take that to apply to any professional, you have to stay ahead of the game, ahead of the curve, keeping your eyes firmly on the ball, knowing that this is how the curve is going. These are the trends. Things may change. So I don't translate as much as I interpret, to be honest. But to be fair, I have a few loyal clients. Much has not changed, but I have personally made an effort to try to advertise myself more in the translation business. I have some clients, I've got back in touch with them to say, I'm available now, and I'm working on that also, trying to get much more translation work, because the advice I always offer is, as an interpreter, if you also are a translator, or if you have another skill set, always use it. It's always good to have several income streams. And translation in no way has been impacted as much as interpreting, which means if you are a translator and an interpreter, you have something to fall back on in these really trying
Challenging
times.
period. Yeah.
Yes. So
Okay.
yes, I have made an active effort to make new contacts in the translation sector, and I'm hoping that they will pay off.
Yeah, they'll pay off for sure. But please let us enjoy your experience on that point again. How do you proceed? What are your strategies? Maybe you won't give us everything, but at least how a younger colleagues in the profession can learn from you on that way. Because many are thinking that probably since they are translators, what they have to do is just to translate, to wait for the next client to come and just to translate. But is it as simple as that?
Definitely not an easy task. Definitely not a given. But what is certain is quality is the one thing that would always fetch you new clients or at least sustain the ones you have. And as you know well, translation specifically has that requirement of thoroughness. It has to be a thorough task. But now, beyond being thorough, it's about quality and speed. Quality, accuracy, speed. As a freelance translator, you do not have the luxury of having the, I don't know if the UN still keeps that standard of 5 pages a day, right? I
Right.
think that was a standard that was used to reflect the circumstances. You know, we didn't have as much tools as we have today. Today, with your translation software and all the memories, you agree with me that 5 pages, that's something like 1,300 words, is probably something you do in half a day's work.
Sure.
People are doing
You're right.
a lot more. So there's that requirement. So you have to be very good at what you're doing. You have to keep learning. Every new text is a new challenge, but it's also a new opportunity to learn something new. And the good old fashioned research, and this is something I have noticed, that it is a bit of a missing link for professionals who have been trained in research methodology, and most of whom have actually had to undertake research projects and defended them in the name of a thesis. But somehow they tend to forget that those skills, those subjects were not there just to fill in gaps in
Yeah.
the curriculum. These are life skills. So there again is an opportunity for you to apply those research skills. How do you find stuff? How do you find material? Are you on top of the tools? There are new tools emerging every day.
Right.
Are you aware of the trends? Now we are talking about artificial intelligence. It's already happening here. And now I think the successful translators of the future would be those that or who master the tools, right? Including artificial intelligence, and then who are on top of their game, because you should still be able to translate without those tools if something were to go wrong. It's like the pilots today. You realize that in the training of pilots, following a number of accidents, they have reverted to include the good old flying without a navigation system. That's flying blind, manual, in other words,
Wow.
just in case autopilot
Yeah.
goes very wrong. You can't afford not to be able to control your aircraft if something goes wrong. So same thing, and you have to keep working hard. You need to get more languages into your combinations. So you should be able to translate from more than one language into your A language, which should also be a very, you should have an excellent mastery of that language. So that is what I think. And then there's, of course,
Thank you.
the hard work, the dedication, but also your work would always speak for you. It's your best advocate. If you do a sterling job, believe you me, even your own clients would refer you to others.
Great. Thank you so
So
much.
the good work you do comes back to you in several other good ways.
Thank you. Thank you. And to go in that right direction, let me ask if actually, when you talk of advertising oneself, you talk of having quality as our main asset as professionals, as translators or interpreters. Do you think is that's enough to find a client? Because you were talking about a strategy, you are contacting back your clients, even those you were not able to work for because you have a very hectic schedule. I just want to remind that you are a translator, interpreter, you also work as the vice president of the International Association of Conference Interpreters. That is a lot of work, a lot of work. So how do you find time to advertise yourself? Because normally your name and your titles should have be best advocates, as you were saying. But you were saying that you are also working to get clients. How do you concretely do that? And how do you manage your schedule, your timetable, and you have a family? Because I know you have a wife and children. So you have so many hats, but how do you organize all that?
First thing I'll say is I don't think I should get work based on my name. I don't even think I have a name, right? I just think I'm me. And as you know, in our work,
Are you getting me?
yes, can you hear me? I can hear you. Hello?
Are you getting me?
Yes, I can hear you, Passion. Hello? 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 Passion, are
Are you
you there?
getting me?
I can hear you. Hello? 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 Are you there? Hello? I don't know if I lost Passion or he lost me. I don't know which is which. So let me just check that out.
Hello. Hello.
Hello?
Yeah, can you hear me, please?
I can hear you faintly, but yeah, I can hear you.
Yes,
Can you hear me?
unfortunately. Yes, perfectly. Unfortunately, it's not that easy. Sorry.
Okay,
Sorry.
don't worry.
Why?
This is part of the business, huh?
Connection
The challenges of
is
online
not
work.
easy in our own country, so it's not easy. It's not that easy.
Yeah.
Well, I was asking how you manage to do all those stuff. I mean, you are a father, you are a husband, you are also a translator and interpreter, as you were saying, I mean, and you were also the vice president of the International Association of Conference Interpreters. So, how are you managing all that? And then you succeed in finding time to advertise your experience so that people can get back to you for translation services.
All right, you know, in everything, there is planning and organization. And juggling several tasks is something we do every day, don't we? As professional translators and interpreters, we're always multitasking. So there's one bit I may not have mentioned. I am also a trainer, so I actually teach. I currently just completed the semester with ASTI, where I train the student interpreters. I think it's work is not that busy as it used to be. So I actually have days when I'm not working.
Hello.
Hello, can you hear me? Hello?
Hello.
Yes, hello.
Yeah. Yes, I'm
Yeah,
listening. Sorry.
okay, sorry. So there are days when I do not work. Um, there are days, the intensive busy days in aiic are almost over because at the beginning of the pandemic, for about 3 months, it was tough stuff like working every day, having online meetings, and there's so much to do. But it's all how you plan out your time. I definitely not I do not take for granted my own family. So I try as much as possible to give them their own time. That is something that is dear to my heart, actually. So I plan for teaching. I can only teach when I have time. And the thing about my schedule as an interpreter is that most of the time you can only tell if you're working on the next day because your assignment comes the night before, which means that you are always on the alert. So yeah, that keeps me going. And these days you don't need to go knocking on people's doors or walk into offices. You would contact those organizations or those clients and say, hey, I'm here in case you need a translator. I'm here. You send out your CV, and yeah, that's how it goes. But for the young people and the even for professionals, the seasoned ones, I think it's always good to explore new avenues for work. It's good to be a member of various professional communities. It's good to be on professional networks like the LinkedIns and the Twitters and all these other ones of this world. There you get in touch with many people, many communities. You interact and they hold a great deal of opportunity. Are you there, Passion?
Yes, I'm there. Yes, I'm there. I'm there.
Yeah, so
Are you
basically,
getting me?
that's it. And there's a
Okay.
lot of
Okay.
referrals
But
as
now,
well.
what I
You've
wanted
worked
to
with somebody, they are happy, they refer you to other people.
Okay. And since you said you are not that acquainted or that familiar with, you are more familiar with the interpreting environment than with the translating environment. So I could have asked how you manage where you get to find your own clients so that maybe younger colleagues are able to do the same and to get their own clients and maybe to do what's right there and to in order to get some clients, because I can tell from my own experience that getting the first client, the first real client, is not an easy task for a young colleague. So is there any platform you would recommend so that people or budding or studying translators know exactly where to go in order to find their first client?
The first thing I would say is the first persons likely to hire you are people who know you. So are likely to be your teachers or your mates. Reason why I underscore the importance of doing everything you're doing it well, doing it to excel.
Yes.
I tend to mentor a lot of young people. So if I am teaching, for instance, when I used to be home in Cameroon, well, this is like 2015. When I got back and I had some offers of work which I found not very interesting, what I did is I wouldn't turn them down. I
Yes.
would speak to the client and I say, since you cannot afford this, I would suggest that I bring in students, right?
Mm.
I
Yes.
work with the students and maybe one other person, but I give the students an opportunity because they are like ready to go. Probably most of the time they had finished the coursework and were waiting either for their finals or they had already graduated,
Yes.
not graduated, but probably finished their finals, waiting for results or something. So I used it as an internship for those young people. And the ones I would take are those who are really qualified to do the job. That is
Yes.
one. If I had to speak about my own experience, the first job I had as an interpreter was offered to me by my lecturer, one of my teachers. You
Yes.
see?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And then, no, the first job I actually had was offered by the school.
Mm-hmm.
That's ASTI. So that was a week or two after we had graduated. And there was an event. And so what they did is they took the first, I think the first four. We did that event. So it was school. After school, the next thing I had was my teacher, then I think my classmates. Now, when you've done that, because what the people who are in school don't know is that people who are out in the fields are interested to know what's going on. And they always keep their ears to the ground to know what's happening in schools, even for the organizations, because they know that the schools are a nursery for the next generation of professionals. So sometimes on the panels, for instance, of the graduation or final exams, I don't know if that still happens. I have sat on some panels, either representing aiic or representing myself. And I know that you had other organizations like the African Development Bank represented on those panels. So you would guess also that it's a bit of a search for talent. Now, the other way I would suggest that the budding translators or interpreters, including aspiring and practicing professionals, is to go for internships, to do volunteer work, right?
Yes.
You can
Yes.
volunteer. Don't go for the money first, because most of the time they want experience. Of course, you have little events, you can work there, you have little meetings. Of course, you can work there, but there's a way that internships. Then you also have rostering drives by organizations. The African Union does it. The World Health Organization does it. The UN does it generally. The African Development Bank does it. I mean, most organizations do that. They need professionals on their rosters, right? Being on a
Yes.
roster means that you've been screened and they think you meet the requirements to be able to serve when the opportunity comes. But you could be on the roster and you may not be used immediately. You
Yes.
see?
Yes.
So it is good to be able to join those rosters. Most of the time they're advertised. So as professionals, they have to keep looking. That's why I say they have to be connected to networks like LinkedIn's, communities of practice, go to websites for interpreters, maybe aiic or anything else. But keep an eye on the websites of those organizations. If they are hiring, if they have something, make sure that you are on their roster. Then speak to people, really speak to people. And each time you have an opportunity to work, give it your best shot because that may be just the trigger, you know. Pastor, are you there? Hello? Pastor, I lost you again.
Sorry, this connection thing is not easy for me here. Sorry. Sorry, actually. Sorry. I'm trying to use two separate connections so that when one is down, are you getting me?
Yes, I am.
Yes. I was trying to use two connections on two separate computers, and when I move from one connection to the other, it's not that easy, and I have to start it all over again. Sorry,
I know what
really
it is.
sorry,
Huh? Those
sorry.
are the vagaries of online work. And
Yeah,
let me take this opportunity to say that working online or doing anything online requires a lot of capacity.
yeah.
It requires, proper internet connection, proper power supply, and proper meaning uninterrupted. So it would be good to have a backup. And I know in our settings it's not always easy. Our power
Mm,
supply is unstable. Internet could be patchy.
definitely, definitely.
Yeah, but so you can understand what it takes to work online. It is
Yes,
not easy. So it actually also requires capacity. So it's, some of the requirements that have to be met to be able to work online. And for some of the clients, they require even a higher, much more, including the kind of computer you're using, the kind of things like headsets and all, So these are the realities we have to deal with. And as professionals, we must be aware of those realities and try as much as possible to be able to deal with them.
This actually brings one of the questions asked by a fan who is watching this.
Okay.
He was asking, what is easier, working from home or working in, in a hub?
Well, working from home as opposed to working in a normal setting, right?
Yes. Yeah. Mhm.
Working from home is definitely not easy. One,
But I think he was asking if what is easier between both.
it's hard to say. As an interpreter, there's something. We have this camaraderie. You have this human warmth, which you always like. They're always chit chatting. You're meeting people, you're talking, you like seeing the speakers right in front of you. You like seeing the audience because all of those give you cues and clues about how your work is going and helps your work. Working remotely means one, if you're working from home, it means you have internet, you have power,
Yes.
and if those fail
Yes.
you, you have a backup, but that you have a quiet environment, noise free.
Yes.
And you
Yes.
can imagine if and I had to deal with my students. We had to be, anyways, I've been teaching only online in ASTI. So you can imagine a student who lives in a room and
Yes.
who has to work from their room and all the ambient noise, the neighbors are talking, music is blasting. So
Yeah.
you need to have a dedicated working space at home,
Yes.
making sure, for instance, that the bell doesn't go off while you are working, you know,
Yes. Yeah.
children are not crying. So
Yeah.
it's not easy.
It's not easy
Plus,
at
it
all.
is more difficult because you need more attention.
Yes.
What they call the cognitive load is higher because you need to have your eyes on the screen all the time, which is not easy. So
Easy. Yeah.
at some point, it hurts. You need to have another screen where you're dealing with your documents. Mm? You
Yes,
need to
sure.
maybe have another device where you are doing your research,
Yes.
looking up stuff. It's not easy.
At
The
all.
good
At all.
side of it is your home. If you have a comfortable environment, fine. It makes it not easier, but makes it more convenient. And you don't have to obviously navigate traffic. A place like Abidjan, traffic can be horrendous. You don't have to navigate traffic to go to a location, navigate traffic to come back, and all the other things. So you're in the comfort of your home. If you're able to come up with a decent home office, that would be fine. So it depends. Ideally, it's good to be where the action is. Hello? Hello? Maybe while waiting for Passion to be back, I could answer a few questions because I'm checking from the comments here. Now, Carol is asking, how do we cope when employers would rather go for cheap service than quality service? That is a difficult question, especially if you are a young professional. Interpreting is like chocolates. It's a luxury good. Not everybody can afford it. You need to know your worth. You need to define what your standards are. You need to be able to say, I'm not going to work. These are my working conditions. Passion, can you hear me? Hello?
Hello.
Yes, Passion. I don't know if you can hear me, but in your absence, I was attempting to answer a question from Carol, who
Yes.
asked about coping with employers who would rather go for cheap service than quality service.
Okay.
So
Yes.
if you don't mind, I will just
Please
follow
do that.
through my answer, then I'll let you continue leading the conversation.
No problem. Please go ahead. Thanks.
Right. So I was saying that you need to define what your minimum standards are. Like, I'm not going to accept working under these conditions. It has to be this. It has to be this amount. I'm not going to accept working for 20 hours because, that those are the standards you have to define for yourself. And that's why I say you need to know your worth. My standards may not be your standards.
Sure.
My experience dictates that there are certain working conditions that I will not accept. But I'm not going to ask a younger colleague not to accept. Now, the bottom line for me is make sure that the professional standards are not compromised. Make sure that you're working under the best possible conditions. Let nobody get you to work. For instance, you're providing simultaneous interpreting in a booth on a tabletop without a booth. That affects the quality of your work. And if something goes wrong, you are the one to blame. Now, I also think that there's a lot of advocacy work that can be done. There's a lot of outreach and awareness that can be raised with these employers going for cheap stuff. Show them what cheap, how bad cheap is, and how good not cheap is, how good quality is. Talk to them, engage them. Sometimes they just don't know. But what the problem is, especially in Cameroon, is that the cheap is provided by the same professionals who are trained. And that is what aches me and aches me, that people who are trained professionals, are the ones driving the gray market. So I think if you have somebody offering you going for cheap stuff and they contact you first, tell them, explain to them what it takes. Tell them, as an interpreter, I have studied for this long. As an interpreter, what you're paying me is not just the time I am working with you. There's time I have to prepare for that assignment, but there's all what I have prepared before. I always take the example of top footballers, Messi or Ronaldo. You only see them performing for 90 minutes, right? You only see their huge salaries. But take a look at their routine, what they do, how hard they work.
It works. Yes.
Take a look at that. And when they are paying them, that's what they're paying them for. They know that when it's crunch time, right?
Yeah.
They are people who can make a difference. And that is where you have that super talent over the ordinary talent. So, my advice is try as much as possible to convince those people. But if push comes to shove, let it go. Just imagine you go for a poorly paid job, and while you've committed to that, something very interesting comes. I can give you an example, and I know it's difficult. It's extremely difficult. But this is not a walk in the park. When you're not working, making money, try as much as possible to develop, learn something new, improve your skills, practice. Practice like, if I have that opportunity, I'm going to take that opportunity and nobody's ever going to take it away from me. I'll give you an example. When I had finished school as an interpreter, one Saturday in, I think it was in early September, and I had this very senior colleague, actually even a teacher, who contacted me for an assignment out of town, 2 weeks. And it was doing consecutive, right, for 2 weeks.
Yes.
And what I remember is the full payment was something like 900,000. I wasn't working, I had no source of income. And on that particular day, I was really like stone broke, stone broke. So when she made the offer, I said, let me think and get back to you. And I remembered what our teachers always said, like, try to make sure that you get the best deal for yourself. You have to know your worth. If you sell yourself cheap, cheap will come for you. When I declined that job, because I broke it down and I was thinking, okay, I'm going to have to leave my house. I'll stay in some place. That money was everything, yeah? Per diem, fees. So when you split it by what, about 10 days or 14 days, it's like 90,000. And I said no. And she was so annoyed and actually shocked that I, fresh from school, I couldn't, I wouldn't accept that offer, which she had made because it was a generous offer. She was making the offer to me to help me. And I said no. That happened on a Saturday. Believe you me, on Monday, I got a call on, I think on a Sunday, for an assignment in Douala. And at the time, the interpreters had to, they always met, we would meet at the bus terminus, the agency or whatever you call it now. And you travel together, or for those who are driving. Lo and behold, when I got there, she was there. This person was there, right? And we're on the same assignment, which the assignment in dollar was a proper assignment, full fees, full DSA, full transport, travel days. So imagine what would have happened if I had taken that job. I would have committed myself, right? And once you make the commitment as a professional, you can't come back and say, no, 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 you can't. So I hope, Carol, this would answer your question. Passion, your mic is off.
Yes, this also brings to us another question. Azaf is asking one question, one interesting question. Do you think that people, I mean, let us read it in French. Hein? Est-ce que les compétences en traduction que l'on a à l'école définissent nécessairement notre capacité à bien réaliser ou à suggérer à nos enseignants de nous confier des projets de traduction? This brings on the table another crucial topic. People who are best in school and in the field, they are not that good. They are not as good as they were probably in school. So do you think, I think it also joins what you were saying about upgrading one's skills permanently, because when you graduate, you might think that you know it all, but you are surely wrong. You are surely wrong. Because I can just give an example. We on Speed Expertise YouTube channel, we recently posted something on Transifex, a localization platform. But many translators, even some who are considered as seasoned translators, were not even aware of the existence of that platform, which means there is something we must do to upgrade our skills permanently.
You see, the good thing is I'm also a trainer, right? And I can tell you for sure that for me, and I love training, you'll be surprised that of all the things I do, I think teaching is my favorite, right? It's really a labor of love. I have a passion for teaching, because when you teach, you learn. When you teach, you practice. When you teach, you improve yourself. When you teach, you guide. You when you teach, you solve problems. And over and above all, when you teach, you lead. And there are people who trust you, who entrust their learning into your hands. But it goes beyond that. There are people who trust you to the extent of opening up themselves, their private lives to you because they feel that it affects, because you can detect that there's something wrong with some of the learners. Some are good, but there's a problem. It might be something psychological, it might be anything, but they open up to you. So you get to know these people. And now, one of the things I always do in life is I am always there for the weakest people. Like, the story of the shepherd in the Bible,
Yeah.
the 99 sheep. And when one got missing, the shepherd went out of his way to go look for that sheep. That is how I see training. And in everything we do, that is, we should be shepherds for those weaker ones to bring them up. And so the mistake some people make is once you excel in school, you stop working and you think you know it all. But those weaker ones who are aware of their weaknesses, they work hard, improve, and they beat you. So there's one, continuous professional development, which is something that is critical for every professional. You have to learn something. I could ask you, what have you learned during the COVID period? Did you learn something? That was a hell of time we had in our hands to learn something new. Maybe a language, maybe, another skill set, especially because there were many institutions offering those courses for free. The other thing is sometimes people just need proper guidance, mentorship, coaching, you know, to do the right thing. In fewer cases, and I don't know if this happens, I don't want to say, I don't think it happens for students to have been on unduly, helped out of school. I don't know if Azaf had that in mind, but my point is there are several factors. But I know my students. I know it's like you know your colleagues. You know who can handle certain stuff. There are some interpreters who are awesome when it comes to speeches. There are guys who are extremely good at technical stuff. Same applies in translation, right? There are guys who are very good in those very complex, arcane subjects. You have the other guys who write beautifully well. So you should also know what skill sets people have, what talent people have.
Right.
And we should also be humble sometimes to say no to assignments because we feel we are not qualified for them. That is also the meaning of a professional. So, in essence, I would say that your training prepares you for the actual practice if you do the right thing and you continue training yourself.
Yeah, that's very interesting. Thank you so much. And I'm sharing this picture to tell people who are interested in continuous learning, continuous uh, coaching, that we are ready to help them. We are ready to help them because we are offering Speed Expertise offers a translator empowerment coaching. This is a 5-day one-on-one and customized training aimed at helping talented translators jump from zero to hero. What does it mean actually? It simply means that you might be talented and don't find the way out in the market, in the business, because from time to time you might not be knowing what exactly to do and how to and how to succeed in the business. And you might need someone to help you. You might need a couple of people to help you. So this is part of what we must do to improve on our skills, because what you said a couple of minutes ago, it can also be summed up as hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. So there are some translators, some interpreters who are very good out there, but who don't know exactly how to sell their talent, how to be good enough to get clients. Thank you very much, Graham. But now, let us come back again to that training, standard training in the translation schools. Do you think during this period things should be amended, things should be changed to match the situation? Let's say as from next academic year, do you think something must change radically or drastically for the new students to be able to cope with the market challenges?
Right, Bastian, thank you for that question. Just before I answer that, let me say a word about that last question. I would say that much of what I am today is thanks to the fact that I have stood and continue to stand on the shoulders of seniors, of those who are more experienced, those who are more knowledgeable, those who are better than I am, right? They have helped to nurture me
Yeah.
in different ways, from my teachers, from my course mates, from my colleagues. I have been lucky to have been mentored like properly. And I think also that mentorship is another thing that we need critically. I have benefited from mentorship. It has really made me what I am today. And I'm really thankful to all those people I have had to stand on their shoulders. I can't name them. But the environment where you're nurtured matters. And that's why I think that we need critically to have a proper system where we can reach out to this younger generation of our folk to mentor them, but to prepare them for the next level, succession planning, because they are the ones who are going to take over. They are the ones we have to prepare for tomorrow, as others have prepared us for today. Now, having said that, to answer your question about things having to change in how we train, I would say definitely. And let me say something, and you might be surprised. I started teaching online in Cameroon, in Istik, in Yaoundé, in 2017 or 16. When I started that, the students were, of course,
Yeah.
embracing change is difficult. It's always new. There's always a natural propensity to resist
Yeah.
change. It's normal, especially if you're not prepared for change. But if you manage the change properly, it becomes something
Ally.
very positive. It becomes an ally, it becomes an asset. So when I was introducing remote interpreting and teaching, I told the students that this is what is happening now. You have to be aware. Today, one, I can't leave my job to come and teach because honestly, I have to bring bacon home. You know that teaching is, at least back in Cameroon, I mean, I do it not for money because there's definitely no money there. I do it because I feel a duty to inspire and to give back. I definitely don't do it for money. If I were doing it for money, I would never do it. Not in the current circumstances. So I told them, this is what is going to happen. So I'd rather deliver a hands-on course, you know, teaching by doing, because this is something you are going to encounter sooner or later. That was 2016, 2017. And I had a bit of a fight, even with the school. Thankfully, the school administration was flexible, but even for exams. And I kept telling them that this is something that is happening. We have to make sure that we prepare our students for this. Now, 2020, this happens. A school like ISTIC didn't have a lot of difficulty migrating online. And it was a unique opportunity because, I mean, for all schools, especially African schools. And that is how I started teaching in ASTI. I said, what am I going to do with my time? I said, I need to do something. So I went to ASTI and I started teaching to make the most of my time and to make it productive. So we started learning online. But what you don't know is most of the interpreting platforms are offered freely to schools. Are the schools taking the opportunity? I do not know. Now, what has to change? A lot has to change because speaking of ASTI, we need to do a 360-degree turn. I have a feeling that we have not properly moved with the times. COVID has only highlighted this fact. And I'm happy that they were able to move online. They have. And I do hope that they will keep it that way because, as I have said, as far as I'm concerned, I'm not going to have in person classes. I have not had it for a long time because I don't live in Cameroon. I don't think it even makes sense flying me there. I don't want even to take that risk when I can do it online. So that is one aspect. And you can get the more qualified tutors. They can do it for free. They would volunteer their time. They don't need to be there in person. But again, in terms of the syllabus, our curriculum, we have to change a lot. I do not understand why our schools, ASTI, ISTIC for interpreting, and then all the other schools for translation, most of them are still training like they're training for the public service for which ASTI was designed. But that whole mandate is no longer there. And the public service of 30 years ago, 35 years ago, is not the same public service today. So I fail to understand why we're still training in two languages. As a matter of fact, we should start having a minimum of three languages on admission, right? Because we are not serving only Cameroon anymore. And we are competing with everybody else who is training in translation and interpreting worldwide. Because when you say you have English A or French A, they're not going to say, oh, because you're Cameroonian, they require. No. You are English A, you are French a French guy is French A, a native English guy or American is an English A. You have to compete with them, right? And in all your other languages. So if we have just two languages, our products will not be very competitive. Yet look around us. How many languages are spoken just around Cameroon? Sao Tome Principe, right? They speak Portuguese. Equatorial Guinea, Spanish. Up north, Chad, they have Arabic. Is there any reason why we don't have these languages in our schools? Now, you're looking at Africa. Is there any reason why we do not have Swahili? I know now that we have Swahili in the Pan African University. This is what we should be doing to prepare for the market. But beyond the hard skills, we need courses like remote interpreting, because that's what is happening now. You need courses in translation. I don't know what's happening in translation. I don't teach there. I can't speak authoritatively, but you need courses that mesh with what actually happens on the ground. Students must always have a computer because when I taught translation, I think revision at some point. And my first requirement was everybody must have a computer. And the students were literally up in arms. And I said, you do not train as a professional today if you don't own a computer. Nobody is going to be scribbling translations. Nobody does that, right? So these are the things we have to do. So the machine translation thing, you need to have those as subjects so that the students right from school are familiar with all of those tools. They should now also teach them the ethics of our professions. Because I saw somebody asked a question, I think Joel, about going in for an assignment. You start and then you realize that you don't have all the information, right?
Yeah.
Il says, en tant que professionnel, après l'engagement, supposant que l'on n'a pas eu toutes les informations par rapport au travail, l'on ne doit pas abandonner la tâche si les conditions s'avèrent difficiles. This is not even a question that should be asked by a professional because you should know what you're getting into. You should know what the professional standards are. But do we do this in schools? Do we have this in our schools? No. How do you expect these people to know them?
No.
How?
You're right. You're right.
So these are the gaps. These are the gaps as I see them. I am making a constructive criticism, right? And we do have people who are qualified to design curricula, who are there. We have them plenty. They can do it. But that is what it takes to be competitive. Because Cameroon has given the world a good number of good interpreters
Great.
and translators. That's a fact, at least on this continent. But now we are leaving our young professionals to fend too much for themselves. So by the time they leave school, they have bigger needs than they should have had, simply because the schools did not prepare them for that. So beyond the hard skills, they need the soft skills, emotional intelligence. They need
Great.
to know the ethics, right?
Yes.
They need to know how to network. This is what we're talking about. They need to know their worth. How do they sell themselves? They need to understand what it means to work in a team. They need to understand what it means working from home and what kind of investments you have to make. These are the things that have to change. So you realize that we are not prepared to make that change because that school year is around the corner.
Thank you
At
so much.
best, we must have an online component
Yes.
because most of the times the people who are training are people who are also working. I mean, the learners. So if you want to bring them on board, you should have an online component of the course. So it should be a face-to-face and online. So you have somebody, I have so many people in Yaoundé who would love to go to Asti or wherever, but they can't. So I think that, and the security situation on the ground, we all know what it is. So many parents are disinclined to send their children to Boya, for instance, because they don't feel it's safe. Personally, I wouldn't like to go to Boya if I don't feel it is safe. But if you have the proper technology, all of this can happen. We'll continue delivering the courses.
Yes.
And I
Remote.
think at the end of the day, is the reputation of our schools that increases, but also the reputation of the quality of the products we put out there. But one other thing I think we've been missing, and which I think we should think about, and I hope I'll be able to bring some people together, is having a strong alumni. ASTI doesn't really have an alumni. You may
What do
have,
you
I do have an alumni for my class. We have a small meeting, right? And we've been thinking about how do we help ASTI, but yeah, we just think we plan, but it doesn't happen. Can you imagine if we had an alumni gathering the generations of translators and interpreters who've graduated since 88 when the first batch graduated? We are going to help the
great.
school a great deal. Same for ISTIC. ISTIC is more than 10 years now. we are going to help. It's a critical mass in terms of resources, in terms of knowledge, in terms of many things. You know, the mentorships we're talking about, trying to get internships for our own people, all of that is something that needs a connection. We need a system. So I think also that as alumni, we have not really lived up to the expectations. So we have failed, and I think we should be able to support our schools in that regard.
Well, and please, just to say what Jalada Red is sharing. She wants to emphasize what you were saying, that you can say that again. There is a great need for change and adaptation, actually. And uh, to confirm that, while while taking people during my one-on-one coaching sessions, I noticed that many people are not aware of the basic things that can spoil a translation when you compete with international translators. Because actually, when we were trained in ASTI, for instance, we were writing our exams on a sheet of paper, And actually, on a sheet of paper, you can't know whether you added a non-breaking space, whether you make sure that there is actually a fine space between
So I think we have lost Passion once again. So I'm going to answer some of the questions I see popping up. So I hope I've answered Joel's question. If you're not satisfied, Joel, just type it out and I would expatiate. Now, William asked other skills and abilities that a trained translator or interpreter should have in order to be successful. I think I've made the point already, and I think the number one is hard work. Nothing. The biggest secret is working hard at what you do, and don't do it well, excel in what you do. Remembering that you're always competing not with the guy in your class or of your batch, but you're competing with the guy graduating from the University of Geneva or from ESIT in Paris or from Ottawa in Canada, such that when you guys go, you are competing for a position. You should be able to hold your own. Now, skills and abilities. You need, for the skills, of course, you need a nimble mind. Need a sharp mind. You need to think on your feet, right? You need a highly analytical mind. You should be able to analyze. You need to be able to digest huge volumes of material in short spans of time and able to summarize all of those. And let me say this. One thing I suggest we should include in our training is the whole idea of skill development and expertise. How do you develop skills? How do you become an expert? My mentees and students know this. I say it all the time. And this is evidence-based. You need 10,000 hours of practice before you are known as an expert. Interestingly, I see people who just leave school and they call themselves experts. And the practice doesn't mean you have to be employed. It's the work you do on your own, provided also you have somebody supervising that practice, what you call deliberate and supervised practice. So you need to always practice what you're doing. You need to get better at what you're doing, better at the tools, but better at your own knowledge. You need to improve. You need to learn something new, learn new languages, understand new concepts, new
Yeah.
areas. You know, a simple thing. Keep abreast with the news developments because that is a trove, a treasure trove of information. You have a lot. You need to know what's going on.
Yeah.
You need to keep an eye on what's going on in the industry. Join associations, professional associations. In Cameroon, you have APTIC, you have aiic. For those who are not Cameroonians, I know that you have associations of translators and interpreters in Cote d'Ivoire. I know they have it in Mali, in Togo, in Benin, in Burkina Faso. They have them all over. Build capacity. We need to train more, train ourselves, that is.
Yeah.
Now, you need to be able to use the tools. As an interpreter, for instance, today, you should be able to know what it takes to work as an interpreter. Beyond all the things you were told in school, having nerves of steel, having stamina, ability to work under pressure, all those things, ability to communicate effectively. These are the skills and abilities, right?
Yeah.
But in practical terms, what are the standards required of me as an interpreter? What are the professional standards? Knowing that I cannot accept work for which I'm not qualified. Knowing that I cannot accept two contracts at the same time, happening at the same time. I hear people cover two meetings. I think they are ubiquitous, right?
Yeah.
Knowing that you have a duty to support your boothmate. Knowing that you don't do a meeting by yourself. Because I know people, individuals, one person running an event for 5 days, an interpreter working both ways. How do they do that? Now, you would need to know that if you have to work remotely, you need to have a proper computer. It's an investment, and I would suggest you make that investment. I'm going to tell you a story. I suggest you make that investment. You need a computer, you need to get internet. I know internet is a big problem, but you have to go beyond your daily bundles of MTN and Orange. All right? You need to get at least what do you guys call it? Is it a box or something? Right?
Yes, they are calling it now fibre optique.
No,
Fibre
not.
optique.
I'm not even talking about. And optic fiber seems to be cheap. Camtel, right?
Mm-hmm.
Faco, I think is 10,000 or something. Make
It's
that investment.
15,000. Mm-hmm.
15,000.
Mm-hmm.
If the connection is there, guys, use it because for working online, you need to have a cable connection to the internet. Cable.
Yes.
I'm
Yeah.
speaking to you from my computer, which is connected to a cable. I'm not using Wi-Fi.
Okay.
I have invested in having, I have 4 backups
Wow.
for internet. So I have optic fiber, which is provided by one company. I have another company, so when I'm not using the optic fiber, I have the second best. I have the other one, which is used by everyone in the house. Then I have my phone. So I have 3 or 4 systems, making sure that because you cannot be working, interpreting online and your connection fails you, right? It's not
Yeah.
professional.
Yeah.
So it's an investment, but the good thing also is that you work for fewer hours. They're trying to, and in aiic, we're trying to push to have a shorter day for those working online. Then you need to invest in the quality of your headphones and
Earphone.
earsets because your
Yeah.
ears are your goodwill.
Yeah.
Hmm?
Yeah.
Vos oreilles sont votre
Mhm.
fonds de commerce for an interpreter. Make sure that you do not try to have the best possible earphones or headsets that, first of all, can protect you because you can have all sorts of injuries, acoustic shocks, but also that have the best quality of sound because when you have good earphones, you pick up better sound. And to have a good mic, like this boom mics, you also provide good sound, right? Make sure your ears, check your ears all the time to make sure that they are good. For translators, you know, these days there's much less typing on a grasp text. So make sure that you invest in the tools, in the software. I don't want to promote any. You have them. You have the Tradoses, you have DeepL, you have them. Invest. Purchase them as an investment. They have webinars, they have all sorts of tutorials. Please be part of it. That's how you get better. The more you use it, the more you become an expert. Try as much as possible to be indispensable in what you're doing. Like if you're thinking of a translator, you should be that translator everybody wants to have. You should be the go-to person. For instance, before we had all this software, I had stopped typing for translation because for most interpreters, that is what they hate most. But you have the software, voice recognition software. You do your side translation, you just speak, and it goes, right? So you should think on how best to improve on your work to get it better and also on the value added you are offering your clients. One thing, make sure that you meet your deadlines. Never overrun a deadline unless you have a compelling reason. It could happen. I know of cases where people have lost their computers. It could happen. But if it happens 2 3 times with you, then as I always say, you have too much misfortune to function with me. I don't know what next is going to happen. Maybe it will rub off onto me, right? So make sure, guys, that is also something. Be as professional as possible. Do the work thoroughly. Don't dump it even when you think somebody is going to revise it, because even the reviser will make a recommendation. What many people don't know is that all those organizations have a rating of their staff, right? So you would be all working for the same organization, but there are some people who are working all the time and you're not, and you're surprised. And they would only call you when there's too much work or when all the other guys are busy.
Are busy. Yeah.
Hmm? So please, when you are working for an organization, they will provide you the glossaries, even if they don't. Compile a glossary. They have their style manuals, follow them to the letter. If you have a problem, reach out and ask for advice. If you have too much work, you can't handle it, say you cannot handle it, or if you are passing it on, be sure that the person you're it on to is qualified and that you have a common standard, right?
Yes,
Those are
yes. Okay.
the problems that we encounter, even for interpreting. So each time you have to do your work, prepare properly. For me, every assignment in interpreting or translation is a new school. It's something new I have to read, I have to prepare, I have to understand. I do it every day. I still practice. Like every day, I make sure I try to interpret. I don't do as much for translation, but I mean, you read, I still keep glossaries, handwritten glossaries and stuff. We must almost always remember the good old fashioned things. Compile your glossaries. Always have a notebook next to you. When you're watching TV or something, you're watching football, you're watching a movie, there are those beautiful expressions or words. Write them down, look them up.
Well,
We
thank you.
can go on and on, but I hope this offers, some clues or leads to the skills and abilities.
Well, I can also mention something, please. Since the scene is changing, we are experiencing a changing scene in the localization industry, even in terms of recruiting. I can see many people who are using personal Facebook accounts, personal Twitter accounts. Do you think that doesn't matter? The way you are using your personal account as a professional?
Of course, it does matter. What you post tells a lot about you. It tells a lot about you. How are you using your social media, your Facebook, are you using it for mundane stuff? Because something people don't know also is that um, those people who are hiring you, they want to know more about you, right? Guess what they do? They will go check you out on social media. Hmm?
Yes.
Somebody tells you, oh, they are sick, they are this is not happening. You check them on Snapchat, TikTok, or whatever, WhatsApp. They are having their life elsewhere. It gives away a lot about you. I'm not saying that it's your personal space, you do whatever you want with it, but
Be careful.
connect yourself, be careful what you post because one day it would probably come to haunt you or it would bite you in the proverbial ass backside. For instance, if you're working for an organization, right? And that organization is coming under fire, under criticism. Are you sure you want to join that bandwagon? Do you think you want to do that? It's not your role. You are a professional, an independent. I think you had better not engage because at the end of the day, that organization, right, will be like, okay, you are
And that also
hitting
behound
at us
the
and you
idea
expect
of
us.
privacy.
Yeah, there are privacy issues. No, privacy is a different ball game because, and that is something for young professionals, which I have seen. And one thing I had forgotten to say was the duty of confidentiality and the duty to not disclose as translators and interpreters anything that comes to your knowledge as a result of your work. Something that is confidential must remain confidential. Confidential means you don't tell it even to your better half. Now, I see people posting pictures of themselves interpreting, or I've even seen cases of people plugging their interpreting or a meeting, say a Zoom event, on their Facebook. How do you do that? You can't do that. It's not professional. You are giving away information you are not authorized to. And you forget that you're not even a staff, even when you are a staff. There are requirements that have to be met. You have a duty of care, and you have a duty of confidentiality and to protect the reputation of the organization you're working for, either as a staff or as a consultant. So on a permanent or on an ad hoc basis. So that also, my dear friends, be careful what you put out there. I know we are always so excited to post
Yes.
our jobs, we're making money. Don't put out that information. Personally, once I see that, I'm like, then you can't be trusted with confidential information or sensitive information.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much for sharing such a hands-on piece of advice. And we are eager to receive you once again here. But before your final word, do you have something to suggest, to recommend to Speed Expertise? We are trying our best, actually, as you may have noticed. Things are not always on by our side. I mean, connection. I'm trying my best. So Speed Expertise is trying its best, but let's say things are not that perfect all the time. We're going to improve on what we are trying to do, but we are so thankful that we enjoy the support of senior colleagues such as you, Emmanuel. And the floor is up to you. What could you recommend us to do so as to improve what we are trying to do?
First of all, thank you really for having me on your channel. I must also admit that it's the first time I am appearing on a YouTube channel and live at that. So thank you for that.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, glad. We are glad.
I think you're doing something that we needed. I think you are trying to bring experience to meet talent. We have to meet somewhere. So you are this platform. And I think it's a good thing that we get this opportunity to engage one another, as professionals. We need more things like you. And I think you're doing well. I remember the first encounter we had, I offered some feedback and I see you applying the feedback and I'm happy. And that reminds me of my own self in
Thank
the
you.
previous life when I started off. I started off also having a firm because I was thinking, like, how do we get to work?
Yeah.
Excuse me. At the time when I left school, even as a translator, the market was something. You had the very best out there. When I left as an interpreter, you had the very best. So my friend and I sat and wondered, like, how are we going to fit in? There's a little chance that we are ever going to have work unless all these grounds are somehow unavailable. And that, my friend, is Alfred Fang.
Yeah.
And we thought that the best way, we also realized that in all of that, there was just one translation firm or known one at, you know.
You were fortunate. You were fortunate, Graham.
Yeah,
You were
so
fortunate.
that was in 2001, we started our own firm and we felt that it would be the only way we can be where the action is. As a firm, we'll be able to hire talent, the professionals, right? And by hiring them, we get to work. Not only work, but learning, because you're working with people who are better than you, including your teachers. You learn. So I think you're doing something that is really good, but you're also giving a voice to the younger professionals, because I think that their voice gets drowned in the noise we as the seniors we are making, but we tend to not give them the attention they deserve. We need to listen more to the young people because they are super talented. I've spoken to amazing young people fresh from school or budding. They are super talented. They are
Genius.
enthusiastic. They are determined to succeed. But all they need is to be guided. They need to be guided. And I think
Direction.
this is
Yes.
something
Yeah.
that you're doing and that you have to keep up doing. I would think that you have to keep these conversations going. Have also the younger
We will
people
do
to
that.
speak about their own experiences because it will speak more to their peers. But get more people, not only Cameroon, get them from around. I'm happy to help, and I'm happy to speak anytime. But I think you need to do much more. And because you are in the limelight, we're going to be a bit more demanding. And of course, for online events, I understand how challenging it could be in our settings. But I think you need to think about that to have a backup plan, especially we're lucky today it's just the internet. What if electricity went off? Maybe you should think about having a generator, right? A backup kind of thing, or to have a UPS, uninterrupted power supply, right?
Yes,
That
I have
way,
that one. I
yes,
don't have a generator yet.
yeah. So you
But
can buy one. I don't have a generator, but I bought one that can run for 2 hours. So within those 2 hours, at least I can find a solution to keep working charging, the at least you have your phone which you will charge that will continue to power your stuff.
The
So
device.
I sincerely think that you should keep up what you're doing. And also you should dare to do more, dare to go to the places no one has ever gone to. Do not be afraid to bring up any issues, even the most, um, how would I call them? The most controversial issues. We need to keep talking to one another all the time.
Yeah. And anything to say about the translator empowerment coaching? I remember I talked to you about that, and you were frankly amazed
I
by
am
that experience.
still in awe. I am still in awe because I think coaching is something that we really don't have as a culture. And I'm really appreciative. I'm really glad and delighted that you were able to come up with this because, as I said, people are super talented. Sometimes they just lack the confidence in themselves. And for me, that's what matters. I have to tell everybody every time that you can do this, you can do this, you can do better than this. For those who hold me as models, I'm humbled, I am honored, but I tell them I would only be happy if you do better than whatever I have ever
Better than
achieved.
sure.
As a
And
teacher,
that is
that
the
is my
spirit, the
greatest
spirit
delight.
behind the.
Say that again.
Yes, please go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh,
Go
okay.
ahead.
So I think you must keep doing that. The coaching thing is extremely important. People need to know what is holding them back. But people also need to know that they have so much talent that is just waiting to be tapped, that needs to be expressed, so to speak. But the other thing which I find, especially for interpreters, another thing which we would need, the kind of coaching we would need is something like voice coaches. We don't have them, not even in our curricula. You go through interpreting school without knowing how to manage your voice, how to
Yes,
speak, how to take care of your voice, and how much meaning you have in your voice. And just public speaking. It applies to all of us, translators, interpreters alike. These are the things that we need. So we need a lot of coaches. We need to empower our own. We need to show them the path. They need to know what's going on. We need
there is
especially to inspire them, keep inspiring them. We have to keep this young talent dreaming. My heart breaks when I meet a young man or a young woman, a young translator or interpreter who tells me they regret joining the profession or who are literally branching out. I always take it as a personal feeling,
yes, that's it.
like, why?
That's it.
And when you
Yes,
listen to
many of
them,
them in that situation actually.
yeah, and when you listen to them, is because they don't get to hear the positive, impactful stories, right? And I'm not saying that this is easy. I've never said this is going to be easy. I always say it's a tough, long, and bumpy road, but it's worth the journey. And at the end of it, the reward is there. It can be extremely fulfilling. It can be extremely rewarding on all scores. But you need to do it right. And my point is, do these people know how to do it right? That is our job. That
That's
is
the
where
job.
we come in.
That's our job. And that is the raison d'etre of Speed Expertise YouTube channel. Actually, as a reminder, Speed Expertise is a translation company, a translation agency that offers language-related services, that is translation, interpreting, dubbing, transcreation, transcription, just to name a few. And this channel, Speed Expertise YouTube channel, is designed to help fellow translators get familiar with trends in the localization industry and also to learn from seasoned colleagues such as Emmanuel AYUK. We just received for this live session. This is the first live session Speed Expertise YouTube channel is broadcasting. And to be honest, you are the one who gave the idea because when I contacted you initially, I thought of recording the program before uploading it to our channel. And you gave me the idea of organizing a live program. It will be more interesting. People will be given the opportunity to ask their own questions, and I think we answered the questions of some of our colleagues, fellow colleagues, starting colleagues, or I don't know, budding colleagues. So we are so glad, so honored that you were with us today, Emmanuel. And I can promise to those who are watching right now that we have so many videos that are coming, videos that are tutorials on localization, interpreter. So if you need something about interpreting, just ask us in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, to like this video, and to click the bell so that you won't miss any video, any upcoming video. And I'm sure, just like Emmanuel was available for us, we will have many more fellow colleagues, senior colleagues, who will be glad and willing to share what they know, what they master, what they have learned for their many years of experience. Now, for the last, the final word, please, what can you say to all those who are watching, and what can you finally say to Speed Expertise?
Okay, as a parting shot, before my parting shot, Patient,
Okay.
I hope I would appeal to your patience. We have a few questions that have not
Okay.
been answered, and I think it's a bit important. If you would allow me to just quickly address them
Okay.
before I offer the parting shot. And I hope that we've
Oh,
answered
feel free, feel free,
most of
feel
the
free.
questions. If by any chance a question slips through the cracks, please feel free to contact me privately. And I'm thinking that we should have an interpreter's conversation. I'd done one and had promised to have another one. And I think that I should deliver on that promise so that we can speak some more. And I'm hoping
Do
that
you
in future also would
allow me
have.
to share your number immediately,
Sure,
your WhatsApp number?
please, yeah,
Okay.
you can share. It's fine, no worries. On my email. So there is Antonio from Maputo, born there, Antonio, and he's saying his goal is not only to succeed in exams but a reference at the African level. What should I do? I think I've told him. As what I've said applies to everybody. You also have to believe in your abilities, believe in your journey, have a sense of purpose, and work hard at it. Get as many languages as you can into your combinations so that you can always be there, you know. Because as it is, these jobs are changing. Beyond the machines that are coming in, now they want a translator and an interpreter who do the job of two or three translators or interpreters. So they want you to have a wider mix of languages. So we should be aware of that. Um, William, knowing that remote simultaneous interpreting is now the new normal, how do we set the prices? That's a good one. I would say that at the minimum, it shouldn't be cheaper, lower than the conventional rates. Personally, for my clients, I said we should meet halfway. We're in a crisis. We are hoping that this is just going to be a temporary situation. So I haven't waived or asked that I be paid more. But you may want to know that in some parts, like in the EU, there's up to a 25% markup for remote interpreting because you're using a lot of your capacity, your computers, your internet, your electricity, and you're exposing yourself more, in terms of your health and safety. Damage could be, um, you're more exposed. You're at higher risk than you normally would be. Now, If you want to, if you have your clients, you can keep the rates you have. You can increase it, but you need to explain to them. Some actually are surprised and they ask, but they are using their computers, they're using their connections. Are you sure that you don't want us to pay some more? Of course, you can. So it depends on how it works. You test them, but please avoid the hourly rate thing. Have a daily rate. Personally, if anybody asks me for an hourly rate, what I do is I would say my cost per hour is at least $300. But you would have to hire me for not less than 2 hours, meaning that my bottom line is $600, right? So if you want to hire me, you should hire me for at least $600 for maximum 2 hours. If your meeting is 10 minutes, you still pay $600. If you now go for 3 hours, you pay another 300. So if you want to do that, you have to be smart at what you're doing. But I would suggest that you look at your daily rate and work around that. I don't think it should be lower, and you explain to them that there's more um, cognitive load involved and you're using your resources and there's more risk involved. Because webinars, in fact, most webinars are like 90 minutes, 2 hours. For the agreement sectors like the UN, I think that we have tried to get them to not exceed 4 hours, like 2 hours for each session. Emmanuel, Emmanuel is asking how can elders bring budding interpreters to a mute booth for remote interpreting. That can happen, but the problem we have is you cannot bring somebody into a virtual meeting without the permission of the organizers, because that's the other thing. They know whoever is attending because you sign in, right? You have your name. So I'll be wary having to bring anybody into those settings because for some of them they are confidential, they are, but I would suggest that um, when the opportunity arises, yes, we'll offer them. If we go back to the normal, right, we can work out something. Otherwise, I'm always happy to, when I organize events, I try to have interpreters, you know, to work. It's an opportunity for them to work. Then, of course, we can always look at internships, right? Emmanuel, did we exhaust all the questions we had before? I think I have answered. If you don't have any, then I'll have my parting shot. Passion? Okay, we are losing Passion. So what I'll have to say to all of you who are here watching, I'd just like to thank you for your time. Thank you for your comments and your questions. They've been quite profound and they've made me reflect on things that I necessarily haven't thought about, and I'm going to give it some more thought. Passion, are you back? I can only encourage you to continue working hard, to continue believing that you can make it, to continue trusting your abilities, to continue to engage people who are seasoned practitioners, be it in translation or interpreters. Get a mentor, get somebody to hold your hand. Do not resist the urge to learn. You have to be an avid learner. Try to learn all the time. Try to get somebody to look at your translation when you do it. That is something else I have noticed. People feel bad when their work is reviewed or revised. It should be an opportunity for you. If somebody revises your work and makes comments, you have to take them in stride and learn from them. If there's something you don't agree with, ask, take it up and ask and have that discussion. It's a highly instructive kind of exercise. And above all, do not give up. I can bet you that brighter days lie ahead, but that would be especially for those who are most resilient. Stay safe out there. Wear your mask, please, all the time. Stay safe. COVID is real. And I look forward to engaging with you at some other opportunity, and have a really blessed day. Patient, if you are there, my word to speed
Yeah,
expertise.
I'm
Are
there.
you
I'm
there?
there. Sorry. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm there. I'm switching from one computer to another because I've tried to connect because I have at least three connections. But to make sure I'm permanently connected, I make sure to connect each device on a different connection. But
Okay.
I didn't succeed in managing it till the end. So I'm just struggling. I'm just
Okay.
struggling.
Yeah, we are almost done. So I would only thank you. I'm happy that you have a lot more to offer to your audience. I would personally um, promote and patronize your channel, and I'm
Okay.
always there to help and advise. And as I said, I was struck at the first encounter we had by the audacity of the project itself.
Thank
And I
you.
think that you would need also to continue helping those young, not only the young, because being a coach, I'm sure that at the next opportunity I would come for some coaching myself. I
No,
think I
I don't
think of
trust you on
course.
that.
Oh yes, it's empowerment. And I think that you should continue, and the YouTube is a great thing, but I suggest that for future events, when you have them on YouTube, we should have a webinar format also on
Yeah.
Zoom, because for some people it might be a bit challenging. So I'd
Yes.
like to
We'll do
thank
that.
you really from the bottom of my heart and wish you the very best going forward. And as always, you need to keep safe.
Thank you. Thank you. You talked of wearing masks in Cameroon because I know you are in Abidjan right now. In Cameroon, people are letting fall the masks for this time now. So
Yeah. So I hear, please do not let your guard down. COVID is not
okay.
finished yet.
Yes, that's it.
We haven't
Thank you.
flattened the curve. We need to flatten the curve. We
Yeah.
need to kick it out. And that means we have to make some sacrifice. Please, please, please just follow basic precautions. Wash your hands all the time. Clean your phones. Wear your mask when you go out, right?
Yeah.
And of course, see a doctor if you feel something is not right.
Yeah.
All
Thank you so
right.
much. Thank you so much. So we'll soon
My
close
pleasure.
this. I just want to at least put back the camera maybe on my phone. Please let me try that because, uh, well, but thank you so much. Thank you so much for what you're doing.
No worries. I
And
understand. I understand the challenges. It's fine.
okay.
All right.
Okay. Take care and
Ciao,
see you.
everyone.
Bye
See you
bye.
soon. All right. Bye.
Bye.